Hi, this is Professor Steve Anderson, and this tutorial is about how to keep score at bowling. I'm going to give you some different scenarios and show you how to score them in the case that you didn't have a computer to do it for you, but more importantly, so that you actually learn the skills of arithmetic necessary to know what it is you need at a certain point in the game to either win a game or achieve a certain goal. So let's get started. Many scoring sheets are set up with two positions, one for the first ball and one for the second ball. Some score sheets have a blank where the first ball goes, others use a second rectangle. Let's assume for a moment that a person scores an 8 on their first ball and then does in fact pick up the spare with their second ball, so they achieve the other 2 pins. No score is awarded the first frame, because on spares, the rule is you get 10 pins plus your next ball. So for example, if in the second frame they score a 7, that would be 10 for the spare plus 7 for the next ball. They would be awarded a score of 17 in the first frame. Now what they do on the second ball of the second frame is yet to be seen. They might get a 1 or 2, or convert them all and get 3 and get a spare. Let's assume for a moment they do convert the spare, meaning this is probably a pretty proficient bowler. Unfortunately, in the third frame, they have kind of a slip-up, and they only achieve a 3 on the first ball. Kind of a waste of the spare, because that could have been worth 10 plus as many as 10 more, but now it's only going to be worth 10 plus 3, which would bring me up to 30. And then, of course, depending on what he does on his second ball, let's say he does not convert the spare, but only achieves a grand total of 7 pins. Then that's what would be awarded on that particular frame. Now, strikes work slightly differently. Let's say they achieve a strike in the fourth frame. And then in the fifth frame, they have another bad shot and only get 2 pins. The good news is that it's 10 pins plus your next 2 balls when you throw a strike. If you throw a 2 and a spare, that's kind of a disaster. If you throw a 2 and a strike, that isn't disaster yet. For example, if they do convert the spare and get all the other 8 pins, it'll still be 10 plus 10, which is 20 pins awarded to them. So it didn't really matter if they got an 8 spare or a 9 spare or a 2 spare or a gutter ball spare. Now let's assume for a minute that we're going to get a double. So let's pretend that there's a strike in the 6th and a strike in the 7th. Now this doesn't get scored until your next 2 balls, but the strike does add up with the spare to give me 20. So for this frame, I could award a 77. For the next frame, I don't award any pins yet because I still have a third ball to throw. And so even though it goes over to the 8th frame, it'd be 10 plus 10 is 20 plus 8 is 28. That would give me 105 in this frame. What he does on his second ball in the 8th frame, of course, matters. Let's say he misses, which is a dash. Then 18 is the award for this frame, giving him a 123, plus 8 pins by themselves would be a 131. Now let's say in the 10th frame that he achieves a strike. You don't score it yet. You wait for 2 more balls, and let's say he gets an 8 spare. That would be 10 plus 10, which is 20. That would bring him up to 151. And if he achieved a 9 on his last ball, notice if you get a spare on the 10th, you're allowed 1 more shot. A strike, you'd be allowed 2 more shots, but on a spare, 1 more shot, leaving him 19 more pins for a grand total of 170. Quite a proficient bowler.